The afternoon fell over Fifth Avenue, with that metallic glow typical of New York, where concrete reflects light as if the entire city were a giant mirror. The glass buildings rose tall, and among them, with its polished marble front and gold letters, the National Bank occupied a corner like a temple of money. Emma was 11 years old and had just discovered that climbing trees was much more exciting when your shoes were wet. She had spent the whole afternoon in the park near home, running after her dog, building castles in the wet sand and laughing until her stomach hurt. Her brown hair was tangled with small leaves, her white shirt looked like a map of brown spots, and her sneakers had lost any trace of their original color under a thick layer of dry mud. When her parents, Mike and Sarah, picked her up from the park, they went straight to the bank. Mike was driving with one hand while holding the phone with the other, talking about numbers that Emma did not understand. Sarah was checking papers in the passenger seat, turning pages quickly. Both were lost in that adult world of work that seemed very boring to Emma. "Honey, can you go into the bank by yourself?" Sarah asked without looking up from her papers. "Just deposit Grandma's check and come right back. Dad and I have to take some urgent calls." Emma nodded, opening her backpack carefully. Inside, protected between the pages of her math notebook, was the check her grandmother had given her for her birthday. $50,000. It was an amount that Emma could barely understand, but her grandmother had explained it with that soft voice she always used. "So you can start to learn the value of things, my love." Emma got out of the car, fixing the backpack on her shoulders. Her sneakers left small mud tracks on the clean sidewalk in front of the bank. When she pushed the glass door, she felt the air conditioning hit her face like a cold slap. The inside of the National Bank was everything a dirty girl should not be. Neat, silent, and smelling of that fake clean scent that places have where nothing can be out of place. The marble floor shined so much that Emma could almost see her blurry reflection in it. The white lights on the ceiling hummed softly. Behind the counter, several workers dressed in perfect shirts and ties helped customers who looked like they came from fashion magazines. Emma walked toward the counter with small steps, feeling how every person in the room turned their head slightly to look at her. She could feel their eyes like needles poking her dirty skin. Behind the main counter was Robert, the manager of the branch. He was a man in his late 40s, with hair brushed back with too much gel, a navy blue shirt that looked 2 sizes too small, and a smile that never reached his eyes. When he saw Emma coming, his face changed from professional to a clear look of disgust. "Yes?" he said, without even trying to sound nice. Emma swallowed hard. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "Good morning. I would like to deposit a check, please." Robert looked the girl up and down, looking slowly at every mud stain and every messy lock of hair. He made a face, as if he had just smelled something bad. "A check?" he repeated, saying the words slowly with doubt. "Kid, are you lost? This is a bank, not a playground." Some people in the line started to turn their heads. An older woman with a pearl necklace gave a quiet laugh. Emma felt heat rising up her neck. "No, sir, my grandmother gave me a check and I want to put it in my account." Robert laughed out loud now, throwing his head back. "Your account? You have an account here?" "Yes, sir." "Let's see. Show me this check." Emma opened her backpack with shaking fingers. The check was a little wrinkled from being between her notebooks. She took it out carefully and put it on the counter. Robert took it with 2 fingers, as if it were trash. When he read the amount, his eyes opened very wide, and he let out a dry laugh that rang through the whole branch. $50,000, he almost shouted, holding it up for everyone to see. "Do you really think I will believe this?" Lisa, one of the workers at the next desk, looked over with interest. She was a woman in her 30s with her hair in a bun so tight it looked like it hurt, and a permanent look of being better than everyone else. "What is it, Robert?" she asked, even though she was already looking at Emma with hate. "This girl showed up here all dirty with a $50,000 check," Robert said, waving the paper in the air. "She probably found it in the trash or who knows where." Lisa laughed, covering her mouth with her hand in a big way. "Or worse, she stole it," she added in a voice loud enough for several customers to hear. Emma felt the floor moving under her feet. Her eyes started to burn. "No, I didn't steal it. My grandmother gave it to me for my birthday. Please, I just want to deposit it." Robert leaned over the counter, putting his face close to Emma's with a mean smile. Your grandmother? Sure, sure. And what is your dad, the owner of a supermarket? Or maybe the guy at the flea market? The branch exploded in laughter. Emma squeezed the strap of her backpack until her knuckles turned white. She could feel the tears pushing behind her eyes, but she refused to cry in front of all those people. My dad, she started to say, but her voice broke. Your dad, nothing. Robert cut her off. Look, kid, I don't know where you got this paper, but we don't like to waste time with jokes here. And then, in front of Emma's shocked eyes and the quiet of the whole branch, Robert did something unthinkable. He held the check with both hands, ripped it in half with a strong move, then ripped it again and once more until it was 4 uneven pieces. He walked to the nearest trash can and threw them inside with a big move. Problem solved, he said, shaking his hands as if cleaning off dust. The silence that followed was total, but it only lasted a second. Then came more laughs, whispered words, and looks between workers and customers. Someone said, "How shameful." Another voice whispered, "Parents should watch their kids better." Emma stood still, looking at the trash can where the pieces of her grandmother's gift lay. She felt a knot in her throat so big she could barely breathe. Her eyes were full of tears, but not one fell. She was not going to give them that joy. With stiff moves, she turned around and walked toward the exit. Every step felt like forever. She could feel all those eyes on her back, hearing the laughs they didn't try to hide. She pushed the glass door harder than she needed to and went out into the hot New York air. What no one noticed in the middle of the show was the man sitting in the VIP area of the branch. Henry Vance was 58 years old and had a fortune most people could not imagine, owner of tech companies, real estate, and one of the biggest. Clients of the National Bank, he had come that afternoon to sign a multi-million-dollar deal. He wore a dark grey suit that was simple but clearly expensive, and he had been checking papers on his tablet when he heard the first laugh. He looked up just in time to see Robert ripping the check. Henry slowly took off his reading glasses, folding them carefully while he watched the whole scene. He saw the girl almost running out. He saw the laughs. He heard the comments. His jaw tightened. A young worker came over with a coffee tray, smiling. "Mr. Vance, would you like a coffee while you finish?" "Who is that girl?" he asked without looking away from the door where Emma had left. The worker looked where he pointed and shrugged with a smile. "Oh, that. A girl who came in all dirty with a fake check. Robert already solved the problem." Henry looked at her hard. "Solved it?" "Yes, don't worry, she's gone." Henry did not answer. He took out his phone and wrote a short message. Then he put away. His papers stood up and left the branch without signing any paper. Emma opened the back door of the car and fell into the seat, as if her legs could not hold her anymore. She closed the door gently, almost afraid to make noise, and sat looking at her dirty hands on her lap. Mike was still on the phone talking about numbers and dates. Sarah was turning pages of a contract, marking parts with a red pen. Neither looked at her right away. Emma was glad to be invisible for a moment. She needed to fix herself before they asked how it went. She swallowed the knot in her throat 1, 2, 3 times. She squeezed her fists until her nails dug into her palms. "Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry." Sarah was the first to notice something was wrong. A mother always knows. She turned in her seat and saw her daughter staring at her own hands, with her back very straight, breathing in a controlled way as if every breath took effort. "Honey?" Her voice changed instantly from work mode to worried. "Did you deposit the check?" Emma did not look up. "No." Mike ended his call immediately and turned too. "What happened?" The silence grew. Emma could feel their eyes, the growing worry, but the words would not come. How to explain what she had felt in there? How to describe that feeling of being less than nothing, of being trash, of being invisible, and at the same time the center of all the jokes? "Emma, look at me," Sarah asked with that soft voice she used when she knew something was really wrong. "What happened in the bank?" And then, as if those kind words had broken a dam, everything came out at once. "The man at the bank. He looked at me like I was dirty. He said the bank was not a playground. I showed him Grandma's check and he laughed. He laughed very loud and everyone heard. A lady said I stole it, and he said I must have found it in the trash and asked if you were the guy from the flea market. And everyone laughed at me, and I just wanted to deposit the check, but he ripped it, Mom. He ripped it in pieces and threw it in the trash in front of everyone. And they said mean things and looked at me like I shouldn't be there." The words came out fast and broken, while tears finally ran down her cheeks, leaving clean lines on her face stained with dirt. Sarah gasped. Mike closed his eyes, his hands squeezing the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. "He ripped the check?" Mike asked with a dangerous calm. Emma nodded, crying. "He ripped it in 4 pieces and threw it in the trash. He said, 'Problem solved,' and everyone laughed more." Sarah moved to the back seat in one move and hugged her daughter tight. Emma held on to her as if she were the only solid thing in a world that had become mean and confusing. "Did I do something wrong, Mum?" Emma whispered against her mother's shoulder. "Was it wrong to go in dirty? Is that why they treated me like that?" Sarah felt her heart break. "No, my love. No. Listen to me. You did. Nothing wrong, nothing, do you hear me? But I was all dirty and—" "A girl has the right to get dirty playing," Sarah said, pulling back a bit to look her daughter in the eyes. "A girl has the right to walk into a bank, dirty, clean, messy, or however she is. You have the right to be treated with respect always, do you understand? Always." Mike was breathing deeply, trying to control the anger boiling in his chest. He turned completely to look at his daughter. "What was that man's name?" "Robert." "I think he was the manager." "And were there more people?" "A woman named Lisa, and others who laughed." Mike nodded slowly. He took out his phone and started writing messages with fast fingers. "It's okay, Princess," he said finally, putting the phone away. "On Friday we are going back to that bank, and everyone is going to learn what it means to respect people." Emma looked at him with puffy eyes. "I don't want to go back there, Dad." "I know, honey, but sometimes we have to go back to the very places that hurt us, to show they have no power over us, and to make sure they don't do the same to anyone else." Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead. "And this time you are going in differently. Not because you have to be dressed up to be respected, but so they understand that respect does not depend on how you look." The car started moving. All the way home, Mike made calls. Sarah held Emma's hand, and Emma looked out the window, wondering why the adult world was so mean about something as simple as a birthday check. That night, Emma could not sleep. She kept seeing Robert's face when he ripped the check, hearing the laughs, feeling those eyes that made her feel small. She wondered if her grandmother would be let down. She wondered if money was so important that people would treat you badly for it. In the living room, Mike and Sarah did not sleep either. They had papers spread over the table, phones ringing, lawyers on video calls. They were getting something ready that would make history at the National Bank. "Are you sure about this?" Sarah asked. Mike looked up from the papers, his eyes tired but set. "Completely. No one shames our daughter and gets away with it. But this isn't revenge, Sarah. It's a lesson they need to learn." Sarah nodded, touching one of the papers. "I never thought we would have to use this way." "Me neither. But if something good can come from what happened, it's that this bank understands every person deserves dignity." In her room, Emma finally fell asleep holding her teddy bear, her cheeks still wet. On Wednesday morning, Robert arrived at the bank whistling. It had been a good day before. He had said no to 3 loan requests from people who clearly didn't fit, as he liked to say, and he had closed 2 premium accounts. He felt important, powerful. Lisa was already at her spot, checking her makeup in a small mirror. "Good morning, Robert. Did you see they closed the Miller account?" "Yes, difficult people. Better off without them." They were laughing when the regional director's assistant walked in with a white envelope. "Robert, Lisa, this is for you." Robert opened the envelope with interest. His face turned pale as he read. "What does it say?" Lisa asked. "It's a meeting. Mandatory meeting Friday at 4 o'clock. All branch staff, no exceptions." "All staff? For what?" Robert read the paper again, looking for clues. "It doesn't say, only that it is top priority and missing it will lead to immediate punishment." During the next 2 days, the branch was full of rumors. Some said they were closing the branch. Others thought an audit was coming. No one imagined the truth. On Thursday, Emma went with her mother to a fancy store in the city. Sarah bought her a navy blue dress with a white collar, black shiny shoes and a delicate headband. Emma looked at herself in the mirror and almost did not know herself. "You look beautiful, my love," Sarah said. "I feel weird, like I'm someone else." "You are still you. Only, tomorrow you're going into that bank and they are going to have to really look at you, not just judge you by how you look." That night, Mike checked all the papers one last time with his 2 lawyers, Mr. Davis and Ms. Taylor. Every paper was in order, every proof checked, every detail ready. The security videos, Mike asked. Requested and confirmed, Mr. Davis answered. They will be ready tomorrow. And Henry Vance confirmed? Yes. He said he wouldn't miss this for the world. Mike nodded, closing the last folder. Then we are ready. Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon, the National Bank looked like a nervous anthill. All the workers were gathered in the conference room on the second floor. Managers, tellers, clerks, security, cleaners. No one knew exactly what to expect. Robert had put on his best suit, thinking maybe an important boss was coming. Lisa had fixed her makeup 3 times. Both were sitting in the front row, trying to look professional and valuable. At 3:45, the doors opened. Emma walked in first, and for a moment no one knew who she was. With her perfect dress, brushed hair shining under the lights, shiny shoes and a proud stance that hid her 11 years, she looked like a completely different girl. Behind her came Sarah and Mike, both in formal suits, followed by 2 people with leather briefcases who were clearly lawyers. Robert frowned, trying to figure out where he knew that family from. It was Lisa who turned pale first. "Isn't that—" she whispered. "It can't be," Robert murmured, but his voice shook. And then Henry Vance walked in. The billionaire walked straight to a chair in the corner and sat down without saying hello to anyone, with a serious face and arms crossed. His presence alone made the room go completely silent. Robert tried to stand up to greet him, but Mike spoke first. "Please, everyone stay seated." His voice was quiet, but had a weight that made everyone obey instantly. Mike walked to the front of the room while Sarah helped Emma sit in a special chair they had brought for her. "Thank you for coming," Mike started. "I know this meeting was sudden, but what we are going to talk about today is very important for the future of this branch and everyone who works here." Robert swallowed hard. Something in Mike's tone made his skin crawl. "Last Tuesday," Mike continued, "my daughter Emma came to this branch to do a simple bank task. She came straight from the park, dirty with mud like any 11-year-old girl who has spent the afternoon playing. And what happened here that day is something no child, no person, should ever go through." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Mr. Davis, please, the video." The lights went out, the projector came to life, and on the giant screen appeared the security footage from last Tuesday. Everyone saw Emma walk in, small and dirty, walk to the counter. They saw Robert looking at her with hate. They heard his voice through the speakers. "Are you lost? This is a bank, not a playground." Some workers moved uncomfortably in their seats. The footage kept playing, Lisa accusing her of stealing, Robert making fun of the guy from the flea market, the laughs, the mean comments whispered between customers. And then came the moment that made several workers hold their breath. Robert ripping the check, once, twice, 3 times, throwing it in the trash with that proud smile. Problem solved. On the screen, Emma stood still, her eyes shiny with held tears before turning around and leaving, with her back very straight and fists tight. The video ended. The lights came on slowly. The silence was deafening. Robert's face was grey. Lisa was staring at her hands. Other workers who had laughed that day looked at the floor, unable to look up. Sarah stood up, her voice shaking with held emotion. "That night, my daughter came home and asked me if she had done something wrong for being dirty. She asked me if she deserved to be treated like trash. Because she played like what she is, a child." She paused, drying a tear. "She asked me if money was more important than people. And I didn't know what to tell her, because based on what she lived here, based on how you treated her, the answer seemed to be yes." Robert stood up suddenly, his hands up. "Ma'am, I didn't know who she was. I thought it was a trick, that someone gave her that check to play a joke, or—" Mike cut him off with a voice that cut like a knife. "And that is your defense? That you didn't know who she was?" Robert opened his mouth, but no sound came out. "Because that, Robert, is exactly the problem." Mike walked slowly toward him. "You would only have treated my daughter with dignity if you had known she was someone important. Respect that depends on knowing a person's status is not respect. It's interest. It's a calculation. It is everything except humanity." Robert fell back into his chair, defeated. Henry Vance spoke for the first time, his deep voice filling the room. "I was here that day." Everyone turned to him. "I was in the VIP area checking papers for a multi-million-dollar deal with this bank. I saw everything. I waited, sure that someone was going to step in, that someone was going to stop that cruelty. But no one did." He stood up, looking straight at Robert. The only trick I saw that day was a manager who ripped a child's dignity and called it solving a problem. Robert shrank in his seat, as if the words were physical hits. Mike breathed deeply and nodded to Mr. Davis, who took a large folder from his briefcase. The lawyer walked to the front and put the paper on the table. "What you are going to hear now," Mike said, "is not to shame anyone, but so you understand the size of what happened here and why it must never ever happen again." He opened the folder and took out several official papers with stamps and signs. "Emma is not just another client of this bank. Emma Davis Miller is the owner of 51% of the shares of the National Bank." The silence that followed was so deep you could hear the breath of every person in the room. "Since she was born," Mike continued, "through a family holding that my wife and I manage until she turns 18, our daughter is the majority owner of this institution. Legally, technically, in every way that matters, she is the owner of this bank." Robert felt the floor disappear under his feet. Lisa put both hands to her mouth, her eyes huge. Several workers exchanged looks of total horror. Henry Vance, who did not know this detail, rubbed his hand over his face, thinking. The dirty girl he had seen shamed was literally the owner of the place. It was almost unreal. But that is not the important part. Sarah's voice cut through the noise starting to spread. The important part is not that she is the owner. The important part is that she is an 11-year-old girl who deserved respect, no matter who she was. Mike nodded. If Emma had been the daughter of a construction worker, a maid, anyone without money or connections, would it have been okay to treat her like that? Would it have been okay to rip her check, make fun of her, make her feel she was worth nothing? No one answered, but several workers lowered their heads in shame. Emma stood up. She was small and the fancy dress made her look even younger, but when she spoke, her voice rang clear through the room. "I want to ask a question," she said, looking straight at Robert, then Lisa, then looking around the room. "If I were not the owner of the bank, would you apologize to me?" The question fell like a stone in still water, creating waves of discomfort that reached every corner of the room. "If I were just Emma, the daughter of someone normal," she continued, her voice shaking a little but not breaking, "would anyone here think they owe me an apology? Or are you only going to respect me now because you know who I am?" Robert opened his mouth several times, but no word came out. What could he say? The truth was clear to everyone. Lisa had tears running down her cheeks, ruining her carefully put-on makeup, but she did not dare to speak. "That," Mike said softly, "is exactly the lesson you need to learn. Respect is not conditional. Dignity is not traded based on someone's bank account or their looks." Henry stood up and walked to Mike, holding out his hand. "Mr. Miller, I came here ready to cancel all my deals with this bank after what I saw Tuesday. But now I see that you and your family are doing something more important than just a lawsuit or a firing. You are trying to change the culture of this place." Mike shook his hand. "That is the goal. But changes need consequences." Mike turned again to the room full of quiet workers. "That is why, after checking the tapes and talking with our lawyers, we have made some decisions." Mr. Davis took out another paper. "Robert Harrison, manager of this branch, you are fired, starting now. Your behavior broke multiple bank ethics codes, customer, service rules, and most importantly, basic human values." Robert stood up shakily. "Please, I have a family, I have kids, I have a mortgage. It was a mistake, a misunderstanding. I didn't know." "Exactly," Mike said. "You didn't know. And that is exactly the problem. You treated a child like trash because you thought she didn't matter, that no one would defend her, that there would be no consequences. Please," Robert was practically begging now, "let me fix it. I'll do anything. I'll apologize 1,000 times." Emma looked at him hard. "Would you apologize to me if I were still just a dirty girl to you?" Robert opened his mouth, closed it, and finally lowered his head. Both knew the answer. "Lisa Stevens," Ms. Taylor continued, "you are also fired. For false claims against a minor, for taking part in bullying and for lack of professionalism." Lisa was crying openly now, but she did not fight it. She knew she had no defense. "Also," Mike added, "any worker who took part in the laughing, who made mean comments or who in any way helped shame my daughter, will get a formal notice of being fired before the end of the day." A noise of panic went through the room. Several workers turned pale. "How will we know who it was?" someone asked in a shaky voice. The videos show clearly who took part, Mr. Davis answered. Every laugh, every comment, every look was recorded. Mike held up a hand for silence. But we also understand that not everyone here was guilty. There were workers who just watched, confused or uncomfortable. There were those in other areas who didn't even see what happened. For them, this is a warning and a chance. Sarah walked over. This bank is going to change, completely. New rules for service, mandatory training in empathy and human dignity, and a zero-tolerance policy for any form of judging based on looks, age, class, or any other factor. Henry nodded in agreement, and as one of the main clients of this bank, I will make it very clear that I will watch these changes closely. My trust in this institution depends on you doing what is being promised today. Robert picked up his things with shaking hands, avoiding all eyes. Lisa left the room with her face covered, her cries ringing in the hall. Other workers waited nervously, wondering if their names would be on the list. Before leaving, Robert stopped at the door and looked back. Emma was standing by her parents, small but steady. Their eyes met for a moment. "I'm sorry," Robert whispered, though. Both knew it was too late. Emma did not answer. She only looked at him with a sadness that was worse than any shout or blame. When the room finally cleared, leaving only the Miller family, the lawyers, and Henry, Mike knelt in front of his daughter. "Are you okay, Princess?" Emma nodded, but her eyes shined with held tears. "Why are people like that, Dad? Why does it only matter who you are when you have money or power?" Mike brushed her hair. "Because they forgot something basic, my love. They forgot that we were all children once, that we all need respect no matter what." Henry walked over and knelt too, getting level with Emma. "Little one, I saw what they did to you, and I stayed quiet for a few seconds too long. I also need to apologize to you for that." Emma looked at him surprised. "But you didn't laugh at me." "No, but I didn't step in right away either, and staying quiet in front of something wrong is also a way of taking part in it." He held out his hand. Emma shook it firmly. "Thank you for being here today," she said. "Thank you for teaching me something I had forgotten," Henry answered. "That money can buy many things, but character is not one of them." The next Monday, the National Bank woke up different. There were new signs on the walls. Every person deserves respect. Dignity has no price. Everyone is welcome here. A team of special trainers arrived. All week, every worker took part in workshops on empathy, hidden bias, and human service. Some took it seriously. Others just wanted to keep their jobs. Caitlin, a young teller who had been at the branch the day of Emma's shaming but had not taken part in the laughs, raised her hand during one of the sessions. "I have a question," she said shyly. "I saw what they did to that girl and I felt bad, but I didn't say anything. Does that make me just as guilty?" The trainer, an older man named Edward, nodded thoughtfully. "That is a hard question. You are not guilty in the same way as those who took part, but silence also has a cost. When we see something wrong and do nothing, we let it keep going. But I'm just a teller. What could I have done against the manager? You could have said a kind word to the girl after. You could have reported the event to HR. You could have done something, however small, to show her that not everyone there thought the same way." Caitlin lowered her head, thinking about the words. "You're right. Next time I will do something." "That," Edward said, "is the right attitude. We can't change the past, but we can decide what kind of people we want to be moving forward." Meanwhile, in other parts of the city, the news spread. Robert got a job as a clerk in a small electronics store. The first day, a girl about 10 years old walked in with old clothes and worn shoes, shyly asking for the price of some cheap headphones. Robert felt an immediate flashback. Emma, dirty and small, walking to the bank counter. By habit, he almost let out a mean comment, but he stopped. Mike's words rang in his mind. Respect is not conditional. "Hello, sweetie," he said instead, leaning down to her level. "Those are very good headphones. Are they for you or a gift?" The girl looked at him surprised, clearly expecting to be treated badly. "For me. I saved up for 3 months. Robert felt something break in his chest. 3 months is a long time. That shows you are very responsible. Let me show you these others that are on sale. They have better sound and cost the same." The girl smiled, and Robert felt something he had not felt in a long time. A small bit of being okay again. Lisa, for her part, found work in a coffee shop. There she met all kinds of people, busy workers, tired students, construction workers on their break. For the first time in her life, she really saw them as people, not as types defined by their clothes or their bank account. One day, an older woman with humble clothes and rough hands dropped her coin purse, and coins rolled all over the floor. Before, Lisa would have thought she was in the way. Now she knelt down right away to help her pick them up. "Thank you, dear," the woman said with a toothless smile. "You're welcome, Mom. Shall I make your coffee?" It was a small thing. It was not enough, but it was a start. Weeks passed. Emma, by her parents' choice and a therapist's advice, did not go back to the bank during that time. She needed to process what she had lived, to understand that what they did to her did not define her worth. The bad dreams came first. Emma would wake up in the middle of the night seeing Robert's mocking face, hearing the laughs, feeling that horrible freeze again while he ripped the check. Sarah held her on those nights, rocking her like when she was small. "You are not what they said, my love. You are brave, you are kind, you are valuable. Not because of money, not because of bank shares, because of who you are." "But why did it hurt so much, Mom? If I knew the check was real, why did I care?" "That they didn't believe me." Sarah thought carefully about her answer. "Because when someone treats you like you are worth nothing, a part of you wonders if they are right. It's something we all feel, even adults. But the difference is in remembering your own worth, no matter what others say." Slowly, Emma started to heal. She went back to the park, though at first she was afraid to get dirty. The first time she got mud on her again, she felt panic. What if someone judged her? What if they looked at her with hate? But her friend Julie, who was playing beside her knowing nothing of what happened, laughed and threw more dirt in a joke, and Emma realized that being dirty from playing had nothing wrong with it. It never did. One Saturday, Mike suggested something. "Do you want to go to the bank with me, just to see how the changes are going? No pressure. If you feel uncomfortable, we leave right away." Emma thought about it for a long time, then nodded. "Yes, I want to see." They went in the afternoon when there were fewer people. Emma walked in wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt, her hair in a messy ponytail, on purpose casual. The branch looked different. The new workers smiled for real. There was a kids' area with books and toys. The signs about respect and dignity were everywhere. Caitlin, the teller who had stayed quiet that day, was at the counter. When she saw Emma, her eyes filled with tears. "Hello," she said softly. "You are Emma, right?" Emma nodded, a bit tense. I was here the day they treated you so badly, and I did nothing to stop it. I have wanted to apologize since then." "You didn't make fun of me," Emma said. "No, but I didn't defend you either, and that was also wrong. I am very sorry." Emma looked at this woman who seemed truly sorry. "It's okay, thank you for telling me." Caitlin smiled with tears in her eyes. "If you ever need anything here, anything, I will be happy to help you. Not because you are the owner, but because you deserve to be treated well. Everyone does." It was a small moment, but it meant a lot. Henry Vance became a regular presence at the bank, not just for his business, but because he wanted to make sure the changes were real and lasting. One afternoon, while waiting in the VIP area, he watched a young man in construction clothes walk nervously to the counter. He was clearly dirty from work, with cement spots on his pants and rough hands. The new manager, a man named Mark, greeted him with a real smile. "Good afternoon. How can I help you?" I need to open an account," the young man said shyly, "but I don't have much money to start, just my first paycheck." "No problem at all. Your money, whether it's a lot or a little, is welcome here. Do you have your ID?" Henry smiled. The change was real. Later, he walked up to Mark. "I saw how you helped that young man. Well done." Mark nodded. "I was in the new trainings. I learned that every client tells a story, and our job is to respect it, not judge it." "Did you know this bank was different before?" "Yes, sir. They told us what happened with the girl. They showed us the video as part of the training. It was hard to watch." "What did you learn from that?" Mark thought carefully. "That it's easy to treat people well who look important. The hard part, the part that really matters, is treating everyone well, because we never know what battles they are fighting, what stories they carry, what value they have beyond what we can see." Henry patted him on the shoulder. "That is exactly the right lesson." In another part of the city, Robert was in his small store when a group of loud teenagers walked in. The old Robert would have assumed right away they were there to steal or cause trouble, The new Robert took a deep breath and smiled. "Good afternoon, guys. Looking for anything in particular?" One of them, a boy with old clothes, shyly asked about used video games. "We have some here," Robert said, taking them to a section. "They are cheap, but they work perfectly. Is it for you?" "For my little brother, it's his birthday." Robert felt a familiar echo, a birthday gift, like Emma's check. "How old is he?" 8 years old. Robert carefully picked out some games right for that age. "He's going to love these. And look, I'm going to give you a special discount because it's his birthday. Every big brother who cares like that for his little brother deserves a bit of help." The teenager looked at him surprised and thankful. "Really? Thank you, sir." When they left the store, Robert stood looking out the window. It didn't erase what he had done, it never would, but he could try to be better, one interaction at a time. 3 months after the event, Emma was with her mother at a mall when she saw Lisa coming out of the coffee shop where she worked, with an apron stained with coffee and a tired face. Their eyes met. Lisa froze, clearly fighting between walking over or disappearing fast. Emma, to Sarah's surprise, walked toward her. "Hello," she said simply. Lisa had tears in her eyes. "Hello, Emma. I didn't expect to see you here. I work there." She pointed to the coffee shop. After everything." There was an uncomfortable silence. Sarah stayed close but let Emma handle it. "Can I tell you something?" Lisa asked in a shaky voice. Emma nodded. "What I did that day was unforgivable. I have no excuse. I didn't know who you were, but that shouldn't have mattered. You were a child, and I treated you in a horrible way. I have thought about it every day since then." "And have you changed?" Emma asked directly. Lisa dried her eyes. "I'm trying. I see people differently now. I don't assume things based on how they look anymore. I don't judge. Or at least, I try much harder." Emma studied her for a long moment. "I hope that's true, because what you did to me hurt a lot. Not just me, but my family. I know, and I'm sorry more than words can say." Emma nodded slowly. "Okay, I believe you. It was not forgiveness, not yet, but it was recognition. It was a start." When they walked away, Sarah hugged her daughter. "That was very mature of you. Do you think she really changed?" "I don't know, my love, but you gave her the chance to prove it. That already says a lot about your character. The bank had changed completely. The culture was different, the staff was different, even the air felt different. Warmer, more human. A special program was started. Once a month, students from public schools visited the bank to learn about money. It did not matter how they were dressed or where they came from. They were all treated with the same respect. Emma, now 12, sometimes took part in these visits, sharing her story, without the most painful details, about the importance of treating everyone with dignity. One day a boy about 9 years old raised his hand. "Is it true that you are the owner of the bank?" Emma smiled. "Technically, yes. But that is not the important part. The important part is that all of you, no matter who you are or what you have, deserve respect when you walk into a bank, a store, anywhere. But people don't always treat us like that," a girl said shyly. "I know," Emma answered honestly. "I wasn't treated like that once either. But we can change that. We can be the people who treat others with dignity even when no one else does." The children nodded, taking in her words. After the session, the student's teacher walked up to Mike and Sarah. "Thank you for this. Many of these kids come from humble families. They had never walked into a bank before because they thought they weren't welcome. Now they are," Sarah said firmly. "They always were, only some people had forgotten." Henry, who had been watching from the back of the room, walked up to Emma. "Do you know what is the most impressive thing about all this?" "What?" "That you turned something terrible into something beautiful. That horrible day turned into a lesson that is changing lives." Emma thought about it. "I didn't want it to happen to me. But since it happened, at least let it be for something good." That night, during family dinner, Mike raised his juice glass. Emma was still too young for wine. "A toast," he said, "to my daughter, who taught us that true power does not come from money, but from character." Sarah and Emma clinked their glasses against his. "And for reminding us," Sarah added, "that dignity is not a luxury, it is a right." The changes at the National Bank started to inspire changes in other places. Henry, impressed by what he had seen, put similar rules in his own companies. In a meeting with his managers, he shared Emma's story. "I saw a manager destroy a child's dignity by assuming she didn't matter. And I saw how that family turned that pain into real change. I want every one of our companies to take the same principles. Total respect, no matter who the person is. The rules spread. Mandatory trainings. Zero tolerance for judging. Reviews based not just on results, but on how workers treated others. At the bank, Caitlin was promoted to customer service supervisor. Her first task was to make a handbook of behavior based on empathy. Every person who walks in here, she wrote in the start, has a story we don't know. Our job is not to judge it, but to serve it with dignity. The handbook was given to all new workers, along with the video of what had happened to Emma, not to shame anyone, but as a permanent reminder of what should never happen again. Mark, the new manager, started a new rule. Once a month, all workers, including managers and bosses, had to spend a day working as frontline clerks, to remember how it felt to be on the other side of the counter, to keep empathy alive. The first time Mark did it, he helped an older man who brought coins in a plastic bag to deposit. "They are my savings," the old man explained with shame. "I collect coins every day." The old Mark, if he had existed in the old bank, might have shown being tired. The new Mark smiled with warmth. "Every coin counts, sir. Let me help you count them." They sat together, carefully counting every coin. It took 20 minutes. Other clients waited, but no one complained, because the scene was a living lesson about what really mattered. 2 years after the event, Emma was 13. She had grown physically and emotionally, but she never forgot that day at the bank. One Saturday afternoon, she was in the bank line, now she went regularly without fear, when she saw a young woman with a baby in her arms talking nervously with a worker. "But I need to open an account," the woman was saying with a southern accent. "I just got to the city and I need a safe place for my money." The worker, new and clearly without the right training, looked confused. "You need proof of local address. Without that I can't process the opening. But I just got here. I'm staying with my cousin. Isn't there another way?" Emma saw the frustration and fear on the woman's face. She saw how other clients looked at her with being tired, annoyed by the wait. And in that moment she saw a reflection of herself 2 years ago. Weak, needing help, being judged. Without thinking twice, Emma walked over. "Excuse me," she said to the worker. "I think I can help." The worker knew her right away. His face showed surprise. "Miss Miller, call manager Mark, please." Moments later, Mark arrived. When Emma explained the situation, he nodded kindly. "Ma'am," he told the woman with warmth, "I understand your situation. There are other ways for people who just got to the city. Let me help you personally." The woman's eyes filled with tears of relief. "Thank you. Thank you so much." While Mark led her to his office, the woman looked at Emma. "Do you work here?" Emma smiled. "No, just a client who knows how it feels to need help and not get it." Later, when the woman came out with her new account and papers in hand, she walked up to Emma, who was waiting in the rest area. "I don't know who you are, girl, but God bless you. I was so afraid they would say no, that they would treat me bad for being from away, for not having everything in order. We all deserve a chance," Emma said simply, "and we all deserve respect." That night, Mark called Mike. "Your daughter did something beautiful today. She saw someone in need and acted, without thinking, without doubt." Mike smiled with pride. "That's how we raised her. Not to be the owner of a bank, but to be a good person." "You did it," Mark said. "You definitely did it." In another part of the city, Robert closed his small store at the end of the day. It had been a good day. He had helped several clients. He had been patient with an old lady who took half an hour to pick a cable. He had given free batteries to a kid who didn't have enough money. While he turned off the lights, he looked at himself in the reflection of the door glass. He no longer saw the proud manager he had been. He saw a man who was learning, slowly, painfully, what respect really meant. He would never forget Emma's face that day, the pain in her eyes, the dignity with which she had left even after the shaming. That image would haunt him always, and maybe that was good. Maybe that was exactly what he needed to never be that person again. Lisa, in her coffee shop, served the last coffee of the night. The client was a homeless man who had collected coins to buy something hot. "Here you go," she said, giving him a large coffee instead of the small one he paid for. "And take this. Sandwich too. The kitchen is about to close and we were going to throw it out anyway." It was not true, the sandwich was fresh, but the man did not need to know that. Thank you, miss. God bless you. Lisa smiled. Small acts of kindness did not erase her past, but they built a different future. On the 3rd anniversary of that terrible day, the National Bank held a special event, not to celebrate what had happened, but to honor the change that was born from it. Emma, now 14, was standing in front of workers, clients, and some invited news people. She had grown, but her eyes still had that mix of wisdom and being weak that only comes from having faced wrong and choosing not to let it define you. 3 years ago, she started, her voice clear and steady, I walked into this bank dirty, messy, with a check that was real but that no one believed. They treated me like I was worth nothing. They shamed me. They ripped a gift from my grandmother and thought they could break me too. She paused, looking around the room. But something important came from that day. We learned, all of us, a lesson we should never have forgotten, that respect does not depend on how much money you have, how you look, or who you know. Respect is a basic human right. Several workers were nodding, some with tears in their eyes. Caitlin, the teller who had stayed quiet that day but was now a supervisor, dried her cheeks quietly. Today, this bank is different. Not perfect, because nothing made by humans is perfect, but better, more aware, more human, and that matters. Mark, the manager, watched from the side. Remembering how he had come to that place, promised to do things a different way. Every day was an effort, a choice to see people first, and their bank accounts later. I want to thank the people who, even if they didn't take part in what happened to me, chose to do something different after. Emma continued. To those who learned from the mistakes of others, to those who decided to be part of the change. Henry was in the front row. He stood up and started to clap. Soon the whole room followed him. The clapping rang loud and real, full of recognition and hope. When the clapping died down, Emma took a deep breath before continuing with the hardest part of her speech. I also want to say something about the people who hurt me that day. For a long time, I didn't know what to feel about them. I was angry. I was sad. I wondered why they did it, if I had done something to deserve it. Her voice broke slightly but stayed steady. I have learned that forgiveness is not forgetting what happened. It is not acting like it didn't hurt. Forgiveness is deciding that what they did to me is not going to turn me into someone bitter or mean. They carried the results of their moves. They lost their jobs, their names. I hope they have learned. I hope they are better people now. In the back of the room, hidden in the crowd, Robert had come. Not as a guest, but just to see, to listen, to carry the weight of what he had done. When he heard those words, tears ran down his face. He did not deserve that kind of grace, but there it was, offered freely by a girl he had treated like trash. Sarah and Mike watched their daughter with a pride that closed their throats. This girl, who had played in parks and climbed trees, who had been judged for being dirty, had become someone extraordinary. Not because of money, not because of bank shares, but because of her steady character. Money, Emma said, looking straight at the cameras, can buy many things. It can buy pretty clothes, full bank accounts, power and pull. But there is something money can never buy. Character, kindness, empathy, the basic humanity of treating others as we would like to be treated. She paused, letting her words ring out. If there is one thing I want people to remember from my story, it is this. Never judge someone by how they look, by their clothes, by whether they are dirty or clean, by whether they seem important or not. We all carry stories you don't know. We all carry invisible fights, and everyone, absolutely everyone, deserves dignity. The clapping was deafening and long. Some people stood up on their own, then more, until the whole room was standing cheering for a 14-year-old girl who had taken her pain and turned it into wisdom. After the event, while the guests mixed drinking coffee and talking, a little girl walked shyly up to Emma. She was about 7 years old, with simple clothes and worn shoes that had known better days. "Hello," Emma said, kneeling right away to be at her level, a move that now came naturally to her. "What is your name?" "Anna. I came with my mum. She works cleaning the offices here at the bank." "That is a very important job," Emma said with total truth. "Without people like your mum, places like this could not work. Everything would be dirty and messy." Anna smiled shyly, clearly not used to someone valuing her mother's work that way. "My teacher says my mum is just a cleaner." Emma frowned. "Your teacher is wrong. Your mum is a professional who works hard to keep spaces clean and safe. That is something to be very proud of. Really, really. And when you grow up, you are going to remember how hard your mom worked for you, and that will make you strong. Anna looked at her with wonder. Is it true that you are the owner of the bank? It's true. But you know what? That doesn't make me better than you, or your mum, or anyone. It only makes me responsible for making sure this place treats all people well, especially girls like you. Anna seemed to think about this carefully. Even if I come in dirty one day, Emma felt a knot in her throat, remembering, especially if you come in dirty, because that means you were playing being a kid, doing what kids should do. She gave Anna a hug, and the little one held on to her as if she had found something precious. Validation, recognition, the proof that she mattered. When Anna left with her mother, who thanked Emma with wet eyes, Mike walked up to his daughter. That girl will never forget what you told her today. I hope not. I hope she grows up knowing her worth does not depend on what others think or say. Do you know what is the most incredible part of all this, Princess? What, Dad? That you came out of that horrible experience without turning into someone bitter or wanting revenge. You became more kind, stronger, more aware of the pain of others. Emma looked toward the window, seeing her reflection in the glass. I think when you know how it feels to be treated bad, you have two choices. Become someone who does the same to others, or become someone who makes sure no one else has to feel that way. I picked the second one. Sarah joined them, putting her arm around her daughter. That, my love, is the most valuable lesson you could learn, and the one you are teaching others. Henry walked up to the small family group. Emma, I wanted to tell you something before I go. Tell me, Mr. Vance. That day at the bank, when I saw what they did to you, I froze for a few seconds. I should have stepped in right away, but I didn't. That is something I have had to live with. But you helped later. You came to the meeting. You backed the changes. Yes, but I learned that the right time to do the right thing is always now, not later. Since then, I have tried to be better. In my companies, in my personal life, in every interaction. Emma smiled. Then something good came. From that day for you, too. Many good things. You reminded me what I had forgotten on my path to success, that people are more important than business. Always. That night, while the lights of the National Bank went out and the city of New York shined with nightlife, Emma looked out the car window at the building where the worst and best of her life had happened so far. What are you thinking about, honey? Sarah asked from the front seat. That sometimes the worst experiences teach us the best. Lessons I wish I hadn't had to learn like that, but since it happened, I'm glad something good came from it. Mike looked at her through the mirror. Do you know what makes me most proud? What? That you didn't let that day define you. You used it as a start for something better. They got home. Emma changed into comfy clothes, leaving the fancy dress hanging in the closet. Tomorrow, she would be just Emma again. A girl who climbed trees, who played in the park, who got dirty and laughed without worries. She looked at herself in her room mirror. She no longer saw the scared girl who had run out of the bank with tears in her eyes. She saw someone stronger, wiser, more aware of the power of dignity and respect. The next day, Emma went to the park as always. She got completely dirty playing, climbed her favorite tree and laughed until her stomach hurt, and when a small boy fell and scraped his knee, she was the first to walk over. Are you okay? She asked, holding out her hand. The boy looked at her, seeing an older girl, dirty and messy, and without doubt took her hand. It hurts, he said with tears in his eyes. I know. Come, let's clean that up, and you'll feel better. Small acts of kindness, simple moments of humanity. That was what really changed the world. One person at a time, one interaction at a time. Meanwhile, in different parts of the city, the waves of that day kept spreading. Robert closed his store that night and for the first time in a long time felt at peace with himself. He had heard Emma's speech, her words about forgiveness and the hope that he had changed. And though he knew he would never erase what he had done, he could keep trying to be better every day. Lisa served the last coffee in her shop, treating every client with the same warmth no matter how they looked or how much they ordered. She had learned in the most painful way possible that judging people by their looks was the fastest path to cruelty. Caitlin checked the new training handbooks at her desk, making sure every word showed the values that now defined the bank. It was no longer just about rules and steps, but about creating a culture where human dignity came first. And Henry, in his penthouse with a view of the city, looked over the reports of his companies. The numbers were good, business was strong, but what mattered most to him now were the other kinds of scores: worker happiness, judging complaints, which had fallen to almost zero, stories from clients about how they were treated with respect. All of them in different ways carried with them the lesson an 11-year-old girl had taught them, that respect is not bought, not traded, not given to only some. It is given to everyone, always, because it is the right thing to do. In her room before sleeping, Emma wrote in her diary, "Today I talked about what happened to me 3 years ago. It doesn't hurt as much as before. I think I finally understand that those people didn't hurt me because I was less valuable, but because they had forgotten how to see the value in others. I hope everyone who heard me today remembers that every person you meet has a story, has feelings, has dignity. And I hope that when you see someone who looks different or out of place, you pick kindness instead of judging, because in the end that is the only thing that really matters. Not how much money you have, but what kind of person you decide to be." She closed the diary and turned off the light. In the dark of her room, she smiled. She had taken something painful and turned it into something meaningful, and that, she realized, was the most important win of all. Money impresses, but character shows. And in a world that often mixes the two, Emma Davis Miller, at 14 years old, had proven a truth that many adults still do not understand, that the real value of a person is not measured in their bank account, but in how they treat those who can give them nothing in return.